Commander Kate Harrison stood at the panoramic windows of Mars Colony Epsilon's control center, her reflection ghosting against the rust-red landscape beyond. The deep space sensor logs in her hand trembled slightly, the first warning signs that something was very, very wrong. "Mom." Emma's voice crackled through her comm unit. "Mom, you need to see this." Her 16-year-old daughter's usual teenage excitement had an edge to it that made Kate's spine stiffen. "I'm a little busy, Em." "The sensors there. The sensors are picking up what we're seeing. Get to Astronomy Hub 2. Now." Kate was already moving before Emma finished speaking. The control center staff parted before her as she strode toward the elevator, her boots clicking against the polished floor. 15 years of colonial marine training kept her pace measured, even as her heart rate climbed. The Astronomy Hub was packed with teenagers from Emma's after-school club when Kate arrived. Their usual chatter was replaced by an eerie silence as they clustered around the main telescope display. Emma, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, was manipulating the controls with practiced ease. "There." Emma pointed to 3 massive shadows moving across the stars. "They're not meteors, they're not ships we know, and they're definitely slowing down." Kate's blood ran cold as she watched the object's trajectory. "How long?" "Orbital insertion in 17 minutes at current velocity." Emma's fingers flew across the console. "And Mom, they're big. Biggest ships I've ever seen on any scan." Kate keyed her command frequency. "This is Harrison. I need immediate verification on deep space contacts. Sound general quarters. This is not a drill." She turned to the teenagers. "All of you, emergency stations. Now." As the kids scrambled out, Emma lingered. "Mom." "Go, Em. Find your father. He should be in Engineering Section 4. Kate managed a smile she didn't feel. "I love you." The next 15 minutes were a blur of activity. Colony sirens wailed as 50,000 colonists moved to emergency positions. Kate watched the defensive grid powered up, the subtle shimmer of shields becoming visible across the sprawling colony's domes. Her husband James' voice came through occasionally on the engineering channel, coordinating power distribution. The ships arrived exactly when Emma's calculations predicted. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, sleek crystalline structures that caught and reflected the distant sunlight. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then the lead ship pulsed, and darkness began spreading across the sky. "Some kind of energy shield," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. "It's blocking direct sunlight. Colony solar collection dropping to 15%. 10%. Switch to backup power," Kate ordered. "Get me a channel to those ships." The response came before they could transmit. A sound like breaking glass filled the command center, accompanied by symbols flowing across every screen. They resolved into English text. "Surrender Sol System territory, or face extin Chishuan. UAV-1 Earth. TNDARD AOUR2CO PLI. Resistance is noted, and ULB Punish. Multiple weapons signatures powering up. Rodriguez shouted. "They're targeting the orbital grid. Return fire. All batteries." Kate was already moving to the tactical station. "Get me Earth command." The first exchange lasted seconds. Defensive satellites fired railguns and energy weapons, their shots splashing harmlessly against the alien shields. The response was devastating. Space lit up with purple-white energy beams that carved through the defensive grid like paper. "James, cut power to Section 4. Reroute to shields." Kate called into her comm. Static answered. "Engineering Section 4 is gone, Commander." Rodriguez's voice was hollow. "Direct hit. No survivors." Kate stood frozen, staring at the tactical display as more satellites went dark. Around her, the command center continued its frantic activity, but she heard nothing except the pounding of her own heart. James was gone. Emma was now fatherless. And somewhere above, Their enemies were just getting started. The lights flickered as another blast rocked the colony. Kate straightened her shoulders, forcing the grief down deep where it couldn't interfere with what needed to be done. There would be time for mourning later, if any of them survived. "Begin evacuation of outer domes," she ordered, her voice steady. "And get me everything we have on those ships' energy signatures. The hours just started, people. And we're not surrendering anything." Jack Cooper wiped red Martian dust from his goggles and surveyed what remained of his drilling operation. 20 heavy mining rigs, each the size of a small house, sat idle in the underground cavern. More importantly, 18 of the toughest men and women on Mars stood before him, waiting for orders that had nothing to do with mining. "They think we're soft," he growled, his voice echoing in the vast space. "Rich tourists playing colonist in our pretty domes. Well, they don't know shit about Mars miners." A deep rumble shook loose debris from the cavern ceiling. The aliens had been bombing the surface for 6 hours straight, trying to crack the main dome's defenses. They hadn't counted on most of the colony being underground. "Cooper," a voice crackled through his comm. "We've got incoming. They breached Tunnel 7. "About damn time," Jack grinned. "All right, people, remember the plan. Let's show these bastards how we do things down deep." The mining teams scattered to their positions. Jack had spent the last hour retrofitting their equipment for war. Drilling lasers were never meant to be weapons, but with enough power, they could cut through nearly anything, including alien armor. The first invaders appeared at the tunnel entrance, towering figures in crystalline suits that seemed to flow like liquid glass. They moved with an eerie grace that ended abruptly when they stepped into Jack's trap. "Now," he roared. Mining lights blazed to full power, temporarily blinding the aliens' sensitive optical systems. The drilling rigs roared to life, their modified lasers slicing through the crystalline armor. 3 aliens fell before they could react, their suits shattering like frozen mercury. "Push them back to Junction 4, Jack commanded, warming up his own rig. "Don't let them adapt." The battle became a deadly game of cat and mouse through the tunnel network. The aliens had superior technology, but Jack's people knew every shortcut and maintenance shaft. They would strike, withdraw through hidden passages, then hit the enemy from another direction entirely. Above them, Jack's comm crackled with Commander Harrison's voice. "All units be advised. Aliens showing weakness to sustained pressure differentials. They can't handle our normal atmosphere. Use it." Jack smiled. "Hey, Carol," he called to his atmospheric systems specialist. "Remember that pressure pulse system we used to clear blocked tunnels?" "Already on it, boss." Carol's laugh had a wicked edge to it, rigging the Atmo processors now. Might rupture a few eardrums, though. Better ours than theirs. All teams, sound protection protocol. The aliens had regrouped and were advancing again when Carol triggered the system. A wave of compressed Martian atmosphere slammed through the tunnels. The effect on the invaders was devastating. Their crystalline armor cracked, pressure regulators failing catastrophically. The aliens inside writhed in agony, their bodies unable to cope with even Mars' thin atmosphere. "Command, this is Cooper," Jack reported, watching the aliens retreat in disarray. "We found their weakness. They're built for deep space. Mars is too much for them, even with their suits." "Good work," Harrison replied. "But we've got bigger problems. They're deploying some kind of biological weapon in Dome 3. Need your team tow." Static cut through the transmission as another bombardment began. Jack looked at his people, tired, dust-covered, but alive and fighting. "You heard the commander. Dome 3 needs us." "How are we supposed to get there?" Carol asked. "They've collapsed half the transit tunnels." Jack walked to his personal mining rig, a massive machine he'd modified more than the others. "We make our own tunnel. They want to play rough. Fine. Let's see how they like it when we come up right under their feet." The drilling laser hummed to life, its beam now refined to a deadly point. Jack's team checked their weapons, a mix of mining tools and improvised explosives. They might not have been soldiers, but they were survivors. Mars had taught them that much. "Mount up," Jack ordered, climbing into his rig's cabin. "We're about to give these aliens a lesson in geology. Specifically, what happens when you dig too deep in the wrong places." As his team prepared for battle, Jack allowed himself a grim smile. The aliens had made a crucial mistake. They'd assumed Mars' harsh environment would work in their favor. They didn't understand that surviving here had made the colonists stronger than anyone could have imagined. Emma Harrison hunched over her modified sensor array, ignoring the ache in her temples. The alien communications had a pattern. She was sure of it. While the adults fought with lasers and pressure waves, she'd spent the last 24 hours analyzing the crystalline harmonic frequencies that carried enemy transmissions. "There," she whispered, adjusting her headset. The alien language wasn't made of words, but rather musical frequencies that shifted like liquid glass. Her astronomy club's audio equipment, originally designed to study solar oscillations, was perfect for decoding it. An explosion rocked the secure lab, causing her equipment to rattle. Day 25 of the siege was proving to be the worst yet. The aliens had adapted their armor against pressure differentials, and their new biomechanical suits were letting them push deeper into the colony. Her comm unit buzzed. "Emma, honey, please tell me you're still in the secure zone." Her mother's voice was strained. "I'm close to breaking their code, Mom. They keep repeating something about a final solution and purification protocols." Emma manipulated the holographic sound waves floating above her workstation. "Give me another hour." "You have 15 minutes. They've breached Dome 2's secondary seals. Jack's mining team is holding them back, but static interrupted the transmission." Emma worked faster, her fingers dancing across the controls. The aliens' crystalline technology operated on principles similar to music. Everything was about resonance and harmony. If she could just find the right frequency. Her screen lit up with translated text. "Human biological adaptation to per-issue XCEDs parameters. Initiate purification of atmosphere. Remove contamination." Mom. Emma broadcast on all channels. "They're not trying to break in. They're trying to change our atmosphere. The bioweapons are terraforming devices." The response came from Jack Cooper instead. "Confirm that, kid. We just found some kind of crystal garden growing in the breach points. It's spreading fast." Emma grabbed her tablet and ran from the lab, heading for the nearest environmental control station. Her mind raced through possibilities. If the aliens' technology was all about harmonics, then maybe. She skidded into the control room where Carol, Jack's atmospheric specialist, was frantically working controls. "The crystals," Emma gasped. "They're trying to rebuild Mars' atmosphere to match their biology. But if they're using harmonics, we can shatter them," Carol finished, catching on immediately. Like breaking a wine glass with the right note. They worked together, Emma translating the alien frequencies while Carol reprogrammed the atmospheric processors. Outside, the crystal structures had spread across 3 levels, their alien geometry distorting familiar corridors. "Ready?" Carol's hand hovered over the activation switch. Emma nodded, double-checking her calculations. "Hit it." The atmospheric processors screamed to life, generating a counter-frequency that made Emma's teeth vibrate. Through the control room window, they watched as the alien crystals began to vibrate, then crack, then explode into clouds of glittering dust. "Command, this is environmental control," Carol reported. "Crystal structures are down. But we've got another problem. The debris is toxic. We need to vent all affected sections." Commander Harrison's voice came through clearly. "Do it. And Emma, get to command. Now." The walk to command was surreal. Emergency crews in sealed suits were everywhere, dealing with the aftermath of the latest battle. Emma passed a group of Marines escorting a captured alien. The first she'd seen up close. Without its armor, it looked almost fragile, its crystalline body structure reminding her of elaborate glass sculptures. Her mother was waiting in the tactical room, surrounded by holographic displays showing the colony's status. Kate Harrison looked like she'd aged years in the past month, but her eyes were sharp as ever. "The aliens are pulling back," she told Emma. "Your frequency trick did more than destroy their terraforming attempt. It disrupted their whole battle network. We've got a window of opportunity." Emma studied the tactical displays, noting patterns in the enemy movements. "They're scared," she realized. "Their communications, they keep referring to us as pressure demons. They think we're the monsters." Kate's laugh was bitter. "Good. Maybe fear will make them think twice before attacking again." She pulled up a new display. "But we can't wait to find out. I need you to help coordinate our next move. Think you can crack their command frequencies?" Emma thought of the alien she'd seen, how beautiful and strange it had been, how fragile and how deadly. "Already working on it," she said, pulling out her tablet. "But Mom, whatever we do next, I don't think there's any going back. For any of us." The red emergency lights cast strange shadows across her mother's face as she nodded. "I know, honey. I know." The captured alien battlesuit towered over Jack Cooper, its crystalline surface reflecting the emergency lights like frozen lightning. His mining team had recovered it during their last counterattack, mostly intact. Now it stood in the colony's main hangar, surrounded by engineers and what remained of the Mars Colonial Defense Force. "You want us to what?" Jack stared at Commander Harrison in disbelief. "Pilot it," Kate repeated, her expression deadly serious. "Emma's decoded enough of their control systems. We need to turn their own weapons against them, and your team has the best zero-G experience outside the military." Jack ran his hand along the suit's smooth surface. "Because of the mineral extraction in the Valles Marineris." "Exactly. The motion controls are similar to your mining rigs in low gravity. Plus," she managed a thin smile, "you're crazy enough to try." The colony's former recreation center had been converted into a training ground. Jack watched as his team, joined by several retired zero-G sports athletes, attempted to master the alien technology. Emma Harrison sat at a control station, monitoring their progress and making adjustments to the interface she'd designed. "The trick," she explained, "is to think in harmonics. Everything about their tech is based on resonance patterns. It's like dancing to music you can't hear." Carol was the first to get it. Her background in atmospheric systems gave her an intuitive understanding of wave patterns. Soon she was making the battlesuit move with almost alien grace, its crystalline armor flowing like water. Incoming. The alert shattered their training session. Multiple bogies dropping from orbit. Jack scrambled into the nearest suit, feeling it conform to his body. Emma's voice came through the internal comm. "Remember, the neural interface works on emotion as much as thought. Don't fight it." The alien attack force didn't expect to meet their own technology. Jack led the charge from Dome 6's emergency exit, his stolen suit moving in perfect harmony with his intentions. Behind him, Carol and 3 others followed in their own captured armor. "They're trying to jam our frequencies." Emma's voice crackled with static. Jack grinned inside his helmet. "Good thing we've got our own frequency expert. Do your thing, kid." Emma's countermeasures kept their communications clear as the battle raged across Mars' surface. Jack's mining experience proved invaluable. He used the terrain like a weapon, leading hostile suits into ravines where Carol's precisely timed pressure waves could tear them apart. "Jack, watch your left." Kate's tactical warning came just in time. He spun, the battlesuit responding instantly, to face a massive enemy unit descending from orbit. This one was different, bigger, more elaborate, its crystalline surface etched with complex patterns. "Command, are you seeing this?" "Affirmative," Emma replied instead of her mother. "That's their field commander. The patterns, they denote rank." "And Jack? They're broadcasting on all frequencies. They're angry." The alien commander's suit moved with impossible speed, But Jack had spent decades working in Mars' treacherous conditions. He let muscle memory guide him, treating the battle like a complex mining operation. Every dodge was a drill adjustment, every strike a precision cut. Now, he broadcast to his team. They executed the maneuver they'd practiced, a complex dance of suits and pressure waves that caught the alien commander in a resonance trap. The crystalline armor began to sing, then crack. The alien's emergency transmission was a symphony of panic. Emma's translation came through seconds later. They're calling for full retreat. They're saying we've achieved impossible mastery of their sacred forms. Jack watched the enemy forces pulling back, their formation broken. His team had seized 5 more suits in the battle, but the victory felt hollow. They'd lost 2 pilots, good people who'd worked his mining operations for years. Cooper, Kate's voice was soft. Get back to base. Long-range sensors show something big coming. This was just a test. Inside his borrowed skin of crystal and light, Jack nodded. They'd proven humans could master alien technology, could turn the invaders' strengths against them. But the aliens would adapt, would come back stronger. The real question was, what would humanity become in the process? Roger that command, he replied, gesturing for his surviving team to fall back. But next time, let's see how they handle fighting in a dust storm. After all, he smiled grimly, we're the experts at that. The red sun cast long shadows as they returned to the dome, their crystalline forms shimmering like desert mirages against Mars' ancient sands. Above them, through the artificial night imposed by the alien shields, something massive was stirring. The next phase of the siege was about to begin. Day 50 dawned in artificial twilight. Commander Kate Harrison studied the orbital feeds, watching massive dust clouds gather on the horizon. Operation Sandman wasn't just a desperate gamble, it was probably insane. But after 50 days of siege, insanity had become their most effective weapon. Weather control reports ready. Emma's voice carried the confidence of someone who'd aged years in weeks. The atmospheric processors are at 120% capacity. Jack's team has the resonance fields calibrated. Kate touched the display, enlarging the enemy positions. The aliens had adapted to their previous tactics, developing countermeasures for pressure attacks and improving their armor's crystalline structure. But they'd never faced a planet-wide dust storm weaponized by human ingenuity. Execute, she ordered. The storm began as a whisper. Thousands of mining charges, precisely placed by Jack's teams, detonated in sequence across Acidalia Planitia. The explosions lifted millions of tons of fine red dust into Mars' thin atmosphere. Then the colony's atmospheric processors, originally designed to help terraform Mars, took over. First wave approaching alien positions, Emma reported, monitoring the sensor feeds. Their shields are reacting. Wait. She leaned closer to her display. Mom, the dust. It's not just blocking their sensors, it's eating through their crystal tech. Kate switched to microscopic analysis. The Martian dust, rich in iron oxide and other minerals, was actually corroding the aliens' technology on contact. Their beautiful crystalline structures were being abraded by billions of microscopic particles. All units, press the advantage. Kate ordered. Ground teams, move in under dust cover. Stolen suits, maintain resonance disruption. The battle erupted across 3 sectors. Jack Cooper led the suited assault, their captured alien armor now modified with protective coatings. Through the howling storm, they struck at vulnerable points identified by Emma's analysis. They're trying to adjust shield frequencies. Emma called out, her fingers dancing across controls. Compensating. Got it. Their command network is fragmenting. Carol's voice cut through the tactical chatter. Commander, we've got a problem. The dust concentration is affecting our systems too. Environmental seals are at 60% and dropping. Kate had known this might happen. The same dust eating through alien tech could damage their own equipment. They were betting everything on being able to withstand it better than their enemies. Maintain course, she ordered. Breach teams, status. Dome 3 breach team here, a Marine reported. We're through their lines. They can't see us in this soup, but their heavy units are still operational. Wait, static crackled. Something big is moving out there. The sensor feeds flickered as a massive shape emerged from the storm. Kate's blood ran cold as she recognized the configuration. A planetary siege engine, like the ones that had first blocked out the sun. All units, fall back, she commanded. The explosion cut off her transmission. The siege engine had fired some kind of crystalline projectile that erupted into a forest of sharp spires, cutting off Dome 3's breach team from retreat. Mom. Emma's voice was tight with fear. Their command frequencies. They're calling in their entire fleet. They're going to try to burn off Mars' atmosphere to stop the storm. Kate watched as more enormous shapes descended through the artificial night. They'd bloody the aliens badly with Operation Sandman. But the price would be steep. Unless... Emma, what happens if we overload the atmospheric processors? All of them. At once. Her daughter's eyes widened as she ran the calculations. We'd create a massive pressure wave, but, Mom, that would breach every dome in the colony. We'd lose everything we've built here. But we'd take their ships with them, Kate said softly. And the dust storm would protect our bunkers long enough for... She never finished the thought. New contacts were appearing on their long-range sensors. Hundreds of them, moving fast. Unknown vessels approaching. Emma's hands flew across her console. There, Mom. They're using Earth IDs. The relief fleet, it's here. Kate allowed herself one moment of pure relief before snapping back to commander mode. Belay that reactor overload. All units, consolidate positions. Operation Sandman enters Phase 2. She smiled for the first time in days. Let's show Earth what Mars colonists can do. Emma, signal the fleet. Tell them to stay above the dust layer. This storm is ours. Through the swirling red clouds, liberation was coming. But Kate knew the real battle. The one that would decide not just Mars' fate, but humanity's place among the stars, was just beginning. The bioweapon ate through Dome 4's walls like acid through paper. Jack Cooper watched in horror as the crystalline infection spread, transforming the transparent panels into alien geometries. Earth's relief fleet hung in high orbit, unable to approach through the raging dust storm that had become Mars' last defense. We've got maybe an hour before structural failure, Carol reported, her voice hoarse from hours of coordinating emergency teams. The infection is spreading faster than we can contain it. In the command center, Emma Harrison hadn't slept in 36 hours. Her workstation was littered with sample readouts and bacterial culture results. It's not just eating the dome materials, she muttered, zooming in on a microscopic scan. It's rewriting them at the molecular level, converting our environment into something that matches their crystalline biology. Options, Commander Harrison demanded, looking more haggard than anyone had ever seen her. Emma straightened suddenly, her eyes wide. The bacteria. Mom, remember the samples we collected from the deep caves last year? The ones that survived by metabolizing mineral deposits. The extremophiles. Jack cut in, understanding dawning. The ones that nearly ruined my drilling equipment. Exactly. Emma's fingers flew across her console. They don't just eat minerals. They process them, break down complex structures into simple compounds. If we can cultivate enough. Kate nodded sharply. Do it. Jack, I need your teams to modify the ventilation systems. Carol, prepare for emergency pressure protocols. We're going to fight their biology with ours. The next few hours were a desperate race. While engineering teams fought to reinforce failing dome sections, Emma worked in the biology lab, accelerating bacterial growth in massive cultivation tanks. The aliens, sensing victory, increased their bombardment. They're targeting the environmental systems, Carol reported, trying to prevent us from spreading the bacteria. Let them think that's our plan, Kate ordered. Jack, is your team in position? Ready and waiting, Commander. Jack stood in his modified battlesuit, deep in the maintenance tunnels beneath the infected sections. His mining team, now veterans of impossible battles, waited with sealed containers of Emma's bacterial solution. The fleet is reporting heavy resistance in orbit. Kate's voice was tense. We got one shot at this. Emma. Bacterial concentration optimal. Emma confirmed. But Mom, we don't know what this will do to our own structures. The bacteria doesn't exactly discriminate. Better to rebuild domes than lose the planet. Kate's voice carried the weight of command. Execute Operation Breakdown. Now. Jack's team moved with practiced precision. They didn't pump the bacteria through the ventilation system. That's what the aliens were expecting. Instead, they injected it directly into the foundation supports, letting Mars' natural groundwater carry it upward into the infected areas. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Where bacterial solution met crystalline infection, the alien structures began to dissolve. But they didn't go quietly. The dying crystals released psychic energy that hammered against human minds. They're screaming, Emma gasped, clutching her head. The crystalline networks. They're alive. Keep going, Kate ordered, though her own voice was strained. Carol, status. Infection rate dropping. Structural integrity stabilizing. Wait. Carol's voice changed. Commander, the aliens are launching something new. Some kind of, oh God. A new sound filled the colony frequencies, a harmonic resonance that made blood vessels vibrate and bones ache. Through observation ports, they watched new crystals form in midair, growing like frozen lightning. They're trying to crystallize the dust storm itself. Emma realized, fighting through the psychic assault. Turn our weapon into theirs. Jack watched in horror as the storm began to solidify, forming massive crystalline structures that could tear the colony apart. But then he noticed something else. The bacteria, he called out. Look at what it's doing to the new crystals. Where the storm's dust had been infected with Emma's bacteria, the crystallization process was failing. More than that, the bacterial solution was spreading through the alien psychic network, carried by their own desperate attempt to seize control of Mars' atmosphere. Their entire system is connected, Emma breathed, understanding. One giant crystalline organism, and we just introduced a virus into their network. In orbit, alien ships began to shudder as the bacterial corruption spread through their linked crystalline systems. The massive vessels that had first darkened Mars' skies were now dying, their beautiful structures dissolving into dull mineral compounds. Signal the fleet, Kate ordered, allowing herself to hope. Tell them to prepare for atmospheric insertion. But warn them. She looked at the dissolving alien structures. Mars isn't what it used to be. And neither are we. We're losing Dome 2. Carol's voice cut through the chaos of emergency broadcasts. Bacterial corruptions spreading faster than predicted. Our own structures are starting to fail. Day 75 of the siege had become a nightmare of unintended consequences. The bacterial weapon that had saved them from the crystalline infection was now threatening the entire colony. Emma's creation was too effective, too hungry for mineral structures of any kind. Commander Kate Harrison stood in the heart of her disintegrating colony, facing an impossible choice. Give me numbers, not theories, she demanded. Emma's voice shook as she reported, at current rates, we have 18 hours before total structural failure. But, she paused, checking readings, the alien fleet is completely disabled. Their crystalline networks are shutting down. We've won, Mom. We just might not survive the victory. Signal the Earth fleet, Kate ordered. Tell them to begin emergency evacuation protocols. Commander, Jack Cooper's transmission cut through the command channel. Before you give that order, you need to see this. Sending video feed from Mining Complex 7. The display showed something extraordinary. Where bacterial corruption met Martian bedrock, new structures were forming. Not the alien crystalline patterns, but something else. hybrid formations that seem to incorporate both Earth and alien biology. "It's adapting," Emma whispered, wonder breaking through her exhaustion. "The bacteria isn't just destroying anymore, it's building." "Can we control it?" Kate asked. "Maybe." Emma's fingers flew across her console. "But we'd need to seed specific growth patterns. Create a template for it to follow. Like the aliens did with their crystals." Jack's voice carried renewed hope. "The stolen battlesuits. Their crystalline structure, if we could modify them to carry the bacterial pattern we want." "We'd be risking everything," Carol cut in. "If it doesn't work, we lose our last intact domes." 50,000 people, Commander. That's what we're betting with." Kate stared at the tactical display, watching red warning indicators spread across her colony schematics. The Earth fleet hung in high orbit, waiting for her signal. They could evacuate maybe half the population before complete structural failure. Or they could risk everyone on a desperate gamble. "Emma," she said finally, "how many suits do we have left?" 7 operational units. "But Mom, to cover the whole colony, we'd need pilots to physically reach every major structural point. The radiation exposure alone." "I'll do it," Jack interrupted. "My team too. We've got the most experience with the suits, and hell, we've been breathing rock dust for decades anyway." Kate closed her eyes for a moment. "Carol, begin evacuation of non-essential personnel to the deep bunkers. Emma, modify the suits for maximum bacterial dispersal. Jack, pick your best people. I'll pilot the 7th suit myself." "Mom." "No." Emma's voice cracked. "The command center. We'll run just fine from the backup facility," Kate finished. "This is my colony, my responsibility." The next hour was a blur of preparation. The modified suits gleamed with an odd hybrid sheen, their crystalline surfaces now hosting colonies of Emma's engineered bacteria. Each pilot carried enough concentrated solution to seed an entire dome's worth of structures. "Remember," Emma's voice was steady as she briefed the pilots, "you're not just spreading the bacteria. You're teaching it. Your suit's resonance patterns will show it how to grow, what structures to build. Think of it like conducting an orchestra." "An orchestra that eats buildings," Jack commented dryly, sealing his helmet. "Just another day on Mars." Kate checked her suit's seals one final time. "All pilots, synchronize resonance patterns. Emma, start the countdown. Carol, seal all emergency bulkheads." She took a deep breath. "And someone tell the Earth fleet to either help us or get out of our way. Mars takes care of its own." 7 crystalline figures moved out into the dying colony, their surfaces rippling with bacterial life. Above them, the artificial night created by alien shields was breaking up, letting through glimpses of natural starlight. Behind them, 50,000 lives hung in the balance. Kate activated her suit's broadcast function. "Begin Operation Rebirth. And Jack, if this works, I'm promoting you to Chief of Colonial Engineering. God knows we're going to need one." "Copy that, Commander." Jack's voice was grim but determined. "Let's go rebuild ourselves a planet." The 7 suits split up, each heading to their assigned sectors. They carried with them humanity's last hope, not just for survival, but for transformation. Mars had changed them. Now they would change Mars. The only question was, into what? The hybrid structures rose like dreams made solid, neither purely human nor alien, but something entirely new. Kate Harrison watched through her battlesuit's displays as the bacterial transformation spread across the colony's skeleton, guided by the resonance patterns they broadcast. Beautiful and terrible, like everything born of desperation. "Dome 1 stabilizing," Carol reported from the backup command center. "New growth patterns holding at 92% efficiency. It's actually working." 6 other suits moved through different sectors, each pilot broadcasting the complex harmonies that taught the bacteria how to build. Jack Cooper's voice came through, strained but triumphant. "Mining complex secured. These new structures are stronger than anything we had before. They're adapting to pressure changes automatically. Emma, Kate called. Status of the alien fleet. Completely dormant, her daughter replied. The bacterial corruption has rendered their systems inert. But Mom, we're picking up massive energy readings from their flagship. I think they're... The warning came too late. The alien flagship, rather than submit to total defeat, initiated some kind of self-destruct sequence. The explosion lit up Mars' sky like a second sun, briefly overwhelming even the artificial night of their shields. Incoming debris, Carol shouted. Multiple fragments, all crystalline, all still active. Kate watched in horror as pieces of the alien flagship plummeted toward the colony, each fragment carrying enough crystalline mass to restart the infection. The Earth fleet opened fire, trying to destroy the larger pieces, but there were too many. All suits, converge on impact zones, she ordered. Emma, modify the resonance pattern. We need to counter any surviving alien bioforms before. The first fragment hit near Dome 3, erupting into a forest of crystal spires. But something unexpected happened. Where the alien crystals met the new hybrid structures, there was no infection. Instead, the bacteria-infused materials simply absorbed the foreign elements, incorporating them into their own growing patterns. It's not fighting the infection, Emma realized, her voice filled with wonder. It's assimilating it. Everything we learned from them, everything we adapted to, it's all in the bacterial DNA now. The remaining fragments fell like deadly rain, but each impact only added to the colony's transformation. The hybrid structures grew stronger, more complex, absorbing and adapting with each new challenge. Mars itself seemed to be awakening, accepting this new form of life as its own. Earth fleet reporting, Carol announced. They're asking permission to land. They want to study what we've created here. Kate looked at her colony. No, their new home. The domes were no longer transparent bubbles of Earth-like environment, but living structures that pulsed with hybrid vigor. Their survival had come at the cost of everything familiar, but they'd gained something unprecedented in return. Tell them to wait, she ordered. We need to understand what we've become first. The 7 suits regrouped at the central plaza, now a cathedral of flowing hybrid architecture. Jack Cooper's voice carried a note of pride. Well, Commander, I'd say we've officially earned our reputation as pressure demons. No one's going to mistake us for soft tourists. Now, Kate smiled inside her helmet. Carol, begin pressure normalization procedures. Let's see what our new home can really do. She opened a general channel to all colonists. Attention Mars Colony Epsilon. The siege is over, but our journey is just beginning. We've created something unique here. Not Earth, not alien, but purely Martian. The darkness is lifting, and the dawn we're about to see will be like nothing in human history. As if in response to her words, the last alien shield generators failed. Real sunlight touched the colony for the first time in 100 days, filtering through the hybrid structures in patterns of red and gold. The light caught crystalline fragments embedded in the living architecture, creating a display that rivaled Earth's most beautiful sunrises. Emma's voice was soft with emotion. Mom, look up. Through breaks in the dust storm, they could see the Earth fleet descending, their ships small against Mars' vast sky. But it was their colony that drew every eye, a glittering marvel of human determination and alien technology, transformed by Martian life into something that defied categorization. Jack, Kate said, about that chief of colonial engineering position. Already planning the expansions, Commander, he replied. After all, we've got a whole planet to rebuild. The red dawn of their 100th day painted everything in shades of promise. They had survived, adapted, and transformed. The darkness was over, but its legacy would shape Mars and humanity forever.